For more on this, I want to bring in General Keith Kellogg, a former national security advisor to both President Trump and Vice President Pence. Good to see you today, General. I wish it were under different circumstances, but I'm going to lean heavily on your expertise. As you listen to that Pentagon briefing just now, what really popped in your mind that is a very urgent matter above all?
Yeah, well, first, Harris, thanks for having me.
Of course.
And right up front, the plan that we worked on for 4 years in the White House when I was there with President Trump sure did not have the ending that this one does, because we had a plan and it was an executable plan, and I felt very comfortable about it. Here's what I was watching and listening with the Pentagon press briefing. They're talking about tactical issues, and I think everybody needs to be able to, as they say, chew gum and walk at the same time. Mm-hmm. The fact is, they're talking tactical issues. They're talking about gates being open. They're talking about what about a field hospital. People need to sit back and leave the commanders in the field to handle that. But what's concerning to me is a complete lack, Harris, of both operational and strategic planning going forward. It's almost like we don't know what we're doing except on a day-to-day basis. We're living this on a day-to-day. And when they get pressed on this, they go, well, we don't know. We don't know what we're going to do. We don't know what we're going to do about the American citizens. That is the largest concern I've got, because at a national security level, you have to depend on the tactical commanders to get that job done. But what strategic guidance are they being given right now? And I don't think they're being given any. Would
that come from the commander-in-chief?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where it comes from. It comes right out of the Oval Office. He's the one responsible for it. He is the commander-in-chief according to the Constitution, and he needs to be giving that through the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Secretary of Defense, and his combatant commanders in the field. I don't think he's given it. And the reason I don't think he's given it is I don't think he knows what he's doing and what's happening there. I think they're almost paralyzed by it. Look, yesterday I was watching Secretary Austin, who was a commander for me years ago when I commanded the Army's 82nd, and Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And that was one of the very first times I looked at him like, it looks like, you know, deer in the headlights. They don't know what they're doing. It's almost like day to day. And they're not stepping back and saying, hey, our job is to provide the commander-in-chief, the president, and his entire National Security Council operational and strategic guidance going forward. I don't think they're doing that. I just don't see it.
You know, I have read some notes that you gave my team. You call this intellectual agility. Does Biden have it? What you call intellectual agility that you need on the battlefield in wartime? You can't fight the current battle. You got to know where you're going with the enemy.
That's exactly right. And that's what I'm talking about with intellectual agility. You have to be able to focus on the current fight going on, but at the same time say, okay, what's tomorrow going to bring? What's the next day going to happen? No, he does not. I mean, it's clear. Honestly, Harris, this is one of those, I hate to say it, Secretary Gates, former Secretary of Defense and former director of the CIA, had it right when he said, Joe Biden has been wrong on nearly every national security decision in the last 4 decades. And remember, you had President Obama make a comment, don't underestimate Joe Biden's ability to screw something up. Boy, we're seeing that very, very clearly. And that's not me talking. That is members of the previous administration. And I think if people sit back, you go, oh, boy, we're in for a long haul, because I really don't see strategic competence going forward.
I don't know if you caught what Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas was just telling me moments ago. He said, you know, it's been compared to Saigon 1975. But after watching that Pentagon briefing, he said, I'm thinking more about Tehran in 1979. He's concerned now if the Pentagon, the State Department, other people don't have a good handle on who we have on the ground, it is very easy to leave somebody behind, and the Taliban will not miss that opportunity, just like they did in Tehran in 1979 to hold hostages. What do you think about that?
It was a great comment, and this is a leadership issue, Harris. And this is where you simply say, if the President of the United States, and I know Trump would have done it, because I heard him in the Oval in very undiplomatic terms when he talked to Mullah Baradar, who was the chief negotiating officer for the Taliban during this process. This is one of them. You said, you know something? We're going to put the full weight of the American military on you, and we're going to get our people out. And if it takes us till Christmas of 2028, we're going to do it. And if you don't like it, stand in our way. And he has to tell them that. And look, we'll put, when I say the full force of the American military, I don't care if it takes 2 corps of U.S. Army troops.
How many people would that be?
Well, I don't care what it takes. I would tell them we're getting our people out. I don't care if it takes another squad, another division, or another Army Corps with the Marines reinforcements and air support. We're going to do it. We're going to account for every single American there, and I don't care how long it takes. And he needs to tell the Taliban that, and he needs to tell our commanders that, and he needs to tell the American people that. I don't think he's done it, Harris. I just don't.
General Kellogg, I also had Congressman Mark Green on yesterday, who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he said, look, we've talked about how they closed Bagram Airport. He said, but the bigger issue is, why don't they reopen it? Why don't we go by and go get some airfields where it's not all everybody being funneled through what some have called, we had a guest on America's Newsroom on Fox News about an hour ago who said they've created a kill zone. Let's watch this and I'll get your response.
Yeah.
We created in the military terms what we called a kill zone. We enabled the Taliban to come in, and we're funneling all of their target interpreters through one single checkpoint. We are violating major military fundamentals by what we just did.
Yeah.
Your reaction to that?
Yeah, first of all, you're absolutely right about Bagram Air Base. I have no idea why we even gave it up, and we should have opened it. But this is where I'd simply say expand your perimeter. And they're not doing it, and they say they don't have the authority, if you listen to the Pentagon spokesman, to do it. And when I mean expand the perimeter, you push and you put enough troops on the ground to do it. You push it out there. I don't care if you push it out a mile or 2 miles or 100 miles. You push your perimeter out to ensure you've got a safe zone for the Americans to be extracted and everybody else that needs to be extracted as well. Bagram would have been great, but they've got to make those hard decisions. And what I'm hearing, Harris, is they're not making those decisions, and I'm not sure they're capable of making them.
Wow. Look, before I let you go, and I don't want to drag you into politics, but I don't know how we can walk around a minefield without, having to take some calculation about how everything on that minefield looks. And one of the things is politics. How bad would it look for a President Biden to actually put 25, 35, 40,000 troops back into Afghanistan if that's what it takes? Is that the game of politics that has us wondering whether or not he even meant it when he said we'd get out by August 31st or maybe stay? We don't know what he'll do, but it's going to take a lot of people.
Yeah, Harris, this isn't politics. This is a game of being an American. And you don't mess around with the United States of America. We are going to protect our citizens. I don't care if it's 1, I don't care if it's 100. And whatever it takes, he needs to do that. That's his job. And he's got to do that. And I don't care what it takes. And I think the American people say, yep, that's the kind of leader we want. We want this guy who's a tough guy, and we're going to make sure if I go anywhere as an American, that the American military, American government is going to come after me if I get in trouble. That's simple.
General Keith Kellogg, pleasure to have you in focus today as we navigate through what we just learned from the Pentagon, which was a lot of information. Not sure how much of it will help us understand how they'll bring home Americans, but we are getting bits by bits. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Harris.